As a way of motivating and encouraging our youth, Youth in the Spotlight is an ongoing project created to unveil, showcase, and market the unique skills and talents of our young people in Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Our first of many features focus on agriculture, which takes us to the Shakespeare and Parang community of Mount Royal, where a passionate farmer has been making a name for himself.
Well, I am Jashaka Andrew. I also hold a role, the president or the chairperson of a non-government organization called the Carriacou Farmers Association. I'm doing farming, as far as I know myself. It's something that I was born into and then develop a liking for it and then study certain parts of the science of it and then get myself back in the art and practice of the science and the cultural practices. Well, I've been farming as long as I said, as I know myself. It has been ages now because I was born into it, grew up into it, and continue to remain in it. So, as you know, back then every child used to do some form of simple agriculture, or looking after an animal or two, planting or two crop. I've been doing that since, as my parents may say, I'll be able to walk. I've been doing this thing. So it is in excess of 15 years I've been actually making sense out of farming. Well, as everything else, it has its hardship in it, you know, and it rewards after some time. You look at the kind of difficulties that you may go through, but in times it weighs the good, weighs the bad. But I wouldn't say it's just a simple walk in the park process. It takes good internal fortitude to actually be continuing into the thing when the times are hard, because when it's hard, it's really hard, you know. In areas when you're looking at the season, probably where it didn't went well, later on when it comes for plant bearing and stuff, you lost everything through that. Then you may lose in livestock area for the dog predation, theft from men and man and all sorts. And then you have pests and diseases, hurricanes and things that may occur that will cripple your business. But in all, it's not an easy journey, but it has its reward. And when you accomplish something, it gives you great self-satisfaction that you were able to do this from point A and get to point B, and it gives you full satisfaction when it's complete. Well, I'm involved in animal and the livestock production, where you have bees, poultry, goat, sheep, cattle, and then to some extent the crop end. So most of the traditional crops like the corn and peas and the cassava, and then I do some other vegetables, and also, well, you're looking at okra, tomatoes and things of that nature to lesser extent. But my main thing is mainly a animal production end, because I tend to like these more than the crop end. One, besides it being traditional crops that it is, you can in planting these things, you can derive many avenues for income, because you know, even though there is a glut of corn within a period, you can actually allow the corn to dry and make byproducts of the corn. Or even in the green stage, you can even make byproducts of the green corn. And in the peas, you can allow the peas to go dry, and it stays pretty long, and it comes in time, because we know how our traditional people in Carriacou, we are clinging on to our traditions, you know, our stone feast, maroons and this kind of thing. It drives need for the byproducts of these traditional crops. And then now we're seeing lately the drive from our ministerial end to actually grow these root crops and these things, because it has additional benefit than just a root crop. You know, you can add value to the crop itself. So these things were done based on the traditional wise, but also the effect of the income and the turnover that it would give you later on. Best practice farming. Is there no favorite to say one way is or the other, because, as I said, I gravitate more to the end of animals. But the art of practicing what you know gives you myself great satisfaction itself. But so I cannot say definitely this is what makes me tick more or this doesn't. But what I say, the whole art of it, I appreciate it and I enjoy doing all of it. So there is no specific one that stands out. Well, the challenges are great, but the ones that are overbearing in the sense that you're looking at for animal wise, you have dog predation and theft. These are a bit overbearing, and the losses are tremendous in that area. You know, then you have for the labor force to you can actually maximize production, because we know we work within a rain season, a wet and a dry season, and it's not all the time that the rain season is with us. So the labor force to actually work with the tide, and so that you could be able to produce as much as you can within that short space of time. And then we look in times for what we have when you have the dry period on the scarcity of food and the minimal access, or even sometimes for water supply. So these are a few things that impacts the whole smooth flow of the production or the operations in sense. Major markets, on a bulk, the main market is on island, and there are major outlets for, like, for example, for you having in meat production. When for instance, the drug center here takes a great deal of meat on a monthly basis. Then you look at the supermarkets would actually take honey and this kind of thing, but the bulk of everything is the basic consumers right here on island, whether Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Well, now I am looking to actually make the whole or making a mark of sensible production in the agriculture sector for the next 10 years. Let it be an area where I can say that at the end of these planning stages and little nitty-gritty, that 10 to 15 years, this thing can actually sustain me and have a trickle-over effect on generations to come, because the planning and the structures that was necessary for development or for the business to actually make sense has been done then. And now in that 10 to 15 years, you actually see the sector being able to sustain itself on a holistic basis. So the thing is that I should not be in the basic way how we do things now, but I should be more at a level where you see of a significant business end. So you look at having a business where you have many branches or what have you of it, but it all sustain itself and actually contribute meaningfully to an economy and to the sector. So we're looking for a striving farming entity that actually makes sense and can be used as an example to others to model for production, in that sense that people would actually make sense or see agriculture as something that actually makes sense and they can also live by it. The normal day, it changes based on seasons, so we can have a wet and a dry season. On a dry season basis, you will take me to the animal, like the sheep, goat, and those ruminants, and more often than not, at first thing morning before, the bulk of them go to do the extensive grazing on this thing on their own. There are those who are remaining inside that you have to cut feeding for. You got to look for feeding for to tend to these animals. Then after the whole ruminant end, you look at the bees end, and that is based on every other week or depending on the workload there is to get accomplished. In those periods, you look at getting the bees ready for harvesting honey and stuff. Well, not harvesting, but foraging for food to actually process honey and things of that nature. So you have to get them be in that ready state by providing them with adequate space for work and this kind of thing, and bringing the number of bees up to a requireable amount so that they can actually mass produce as they're supposed to. And from that, you then is minimal set of farming that is minimal amount of crop production would be done. And like, for example, what would normally get done is things of seasonings and this kind of thing, and lettuce would be produced on a small little system of irrigation. But the bulk of thing deals with the animals and fencing, pasture management, and repairing of fence and this thing. That is basically on a dry period. But when the rain season comes on, the same thing happens where you have to look at the animals in the morning, and then from bees to then garden. It's back, forth and everything, but it's all structured in a way that my system is already accustomed with it, so it knows what needs to be gone based on where things are, what stages plants are, so we know what needs to get done then. It impacted us negatively, yes, but in some end, for example on the poultry end, it brought in some form of income, because at one point in time we had a little bit of shortfall of chicken here on the island, and I was able to some extent, if not block that hole, but actually cushion the fall of it, and that you get something out of that period. But then for the crops that I had within that period for tomatoes, so was it suffered in the sense because there was no income coming in there, because there was nobody to actually purchase or get anything done. So we lost on a bit there, and then the functions that had to occur, or like the christenings, the birthday parties, the tombstone and stuff like that for animal wise who requested meat and things like that fell through because it couldn't have happened. And then we have the shortage or closure of the restaurants and stuff who I supply with meat. All that went through because of the pandemic that we had. So in all, it set me aback, but then it brings you to a place where people know certain things that they didn't know before that you have to offer the public in another sense. So beside the major financial loss, you get a little bit of publicity in the sense that people know that you now have a product that they didn't know about before, or it met a wider audience of people in Carriacou here. Well, the simple thing I can say is that you as young people wish to do something. If you see something within the agriculture sector that you like, you should hold fast and stick to it and persevere with it. It is by no short means an easy process. It is no means that you would get the turnovers in quick time. You have to persevere, and you have to have the strong faith in sticking to the art and practices that would actually help you make sense of the sector. So people, or young people, just have to hold fast and steady and be focused on what you want to achieve off the sector. What is it that you want to gain off, and what is it that you want to add towards the agriculture sector, and see how you as an individual can make a self-difference to yourself, and then in return the whole sector would actually make economic sense. So all I can say is that you should keep steady and stay focused to what you want within the sector, and then the sector will be able to work for you.